Hello, I'm doing this again. Oh god, I really need to get better at intros and conclusions. Anyways, I guess people usually talk about what they did over the weekend. I visited my grandparents, which wasn't very fun. Um, but I'm kind of a bystander in my own life, which I realized pretty in during prom when I kind of just let a guy flirt at me and I acted like I was the NPC of his dating game. I'm just an awkward person. Anyways, I kind of just started following my grandparents and we walked into Home Goods and I got a bunch of skulls. Because I don't really know how to decorate my room. Also, like, because it's apparently Halloween. It's freaking August and it's already Halloween. Also, it's also Thanksgiving. And I think Christmas is about to start. It's an efficient system, if anything else. What are we doing? Last time, slime like hodgepodge. It's sticking to everything. It takes like a month to dry. Last time I did this, if you can tell with my shitty little computer camera, that's fine, I don't really care that much. You need to see me in 4K. It's not that much there. Or this time I'm doing Creature Commandos. So I took like one of the teaser photos to use, and I kind of had to smush everyone together, so they're kind of messed up. It's fine. I don't know why I'm doing watercolor. I'm not really good at watercolor. But I also did clay, and I'm not good at clay, so maybe I'm just a masochist. That's what my dad says. I don't really think he has feet to stand on, but whatever. So I'm doing Creature Commandos, and it's kind of funny is I'm doing like the first teaser photo they had of it, which, if anyone knows, when they first released teaser photos, like this is not what the characters are gonna end up looking. So if you look at like the actual poster that I didn't use because I didn't think it would look good in watercolor, like a lot of things have changed. Like, for example, the robot guy, his name, GI Robot, is literally holding a gun while in the promotional his hand turns into a gun. There's little things also, like they added more texture to, oh my god, why can't I remember Rick's shirt. And just like little stuff like that. They completely like changed up Dr. Phosphorus. But that might have been just I wanted to add a little more extra style to the poster. Because he is kind of plain compared to everyone else. I'm getting a little distracted. Also, I can't turn my fan on because it's too loud. So instead of being too loud, I have to be too warm. And that's going to be a problem sooner or later, I suppose. I have too many notes in this freaking folder. I'm not prepared. I never am. I also don't have a lot of desk space, so this is going to be very precarious for a good while. And I think these are the watercolors I'm using. I stole them from my high school. My art teacher was a bitch though, so if anything, I consider this reparations. Because she was a dick to both me and my friends in class. Like, I mean, I was kind of a dick back to her. And I also did get her to say, I love BBC once, completely unintentionally. So, I suppose between that and these watercolors and the Sharpies and the pencils and the erasers and the paintbrushes were even. She wasn't pissed off at me because of that. I just also happened to be doing that because I didn't respect her because she was a dick. a kind person, not a nice person. Okay, I have my moments. Now, where are we starting? Episode 1, the Collywobs. I like TV shows that have a rhyming scheme for their nicknames, for the episode titles. Like for Amazing World of Gumball, everything starts with a the. I think there's some where they like reference a quote that they use later on. I guess they kind of do like the reference stuff, but there's no naming scheme in this, and it's kind of boring. I also don't have a lot of yellow, so this is gonna turn interesting real quick. That's kind of why I'm doing the yellow guy first. Anyways, where were we at? Okay, so the episode kind of starts off with Amanda Waller talking to Rick Flag, and we get some of like introductions into what's exactly happening in the background. So basically, Cersei, who is Wonder Woman's villain primarily, which is a point of contention I will bring up later. She's gonna invade Pokolistan, and the princess of Pokolistan with a group of incels called the Sons of Themyscira. So they have a few like cutaway gags of them fucking around. And sorry, I'm not doing this right. I need to get better at multitasking. So it's just an introduction scene. We get like some news that Project Starfish did happen, and his son did die during it. So we get some confirmation that at least some parts of the movie still happen. We also get to meet the team, and we learn that some of the stuff that happened in Peacemaker 1 also are canon, like them exposing Amanda Waller for her Suicide Squad things. And she basically got a slap on the wrist. She can't force human prisoners to do whatever she wants. So she's focusing on inhuman prisoners. And we meet the relevant ones, at least. There's a few references that I'll bring up later, but... So we got the bride, Bride of Frankenstein reference. Then we got G.I. Robot, a World War II soldier robot created to primarily kill Nazis. Then we got Nina, who's basically like a creature from the Black Lagoon. Weasel, who is in the Suicide Squad movie, and he is some sort of mammal. I mean, I assume he secretes milk. And then we got Dr. Phosphorus, who is radiation. Essentially, a irradiated skeleton, I think, is the correct term. So that's what the team is. And basically, they immediately take the first opportunity, except for Nina, to attack him. And so we are introduced to the bomb, because in Suicide Squad there was a bomb in their heads, and this time, instead of a bomb in their heads, they get the much nicer option of just getting electrocuted really, really badly. So we get introduced to that plot device, but it's not really relevant. I don't really know why they made such a big fuss about it. But, I guess you want to introduce consequences quite early on, if you're able. Yeah, or green to this yellow. Okay. So, the plane ride, we learn that Weasel's scared of planes now, which isn't really relevant. They bring up the fact that he killed a lot of kids. That becomes relevant later. Okay, so they meet the princess, and I don't know how to describe this. So basically, like, they try to, like, connect to the Americans. And of course, we do the whole, like, Americans are still imperialists, because we are. And then the only reason we're helping out the Coast Sun is because we want their resources. Um, but then we got intern, like, them liking American culture, but, like, American culture from, like, 30 years ago, because we get Where's the Beef reference. I don't even think I was alive when that came out. Um, if I was barely conscious as like a 3-year-old or something. And we get them doing like the classic sort of, you've insulted my country, we're gonna kill you now. JK, actually, we thought that would be funny. It's a classic bit. You know, if it's ain't broke, don't fix it. Like the whole, what you call it? I thought you would be taller bit that they always use over and over and over again. I actually don't mind that one as much. Um, Comparatively speaking. There's not a lot like to say about this episode. This is kind of just like what's happening. But we go outside and everyone's just kind of chilling. Dr. Phosphorus is dancing. Weasel's getting played fetch, and then we kind of get like the first. This is kind of a recurring thing. So we get a little bit about Rick Flagg's backstory. He has an ex-wife. They had a kid when he was very young, 18, and he went off to the military, and then his son went off to the military, and then he died. And then Rick Flag needs to stop trusting women. Between Amanda Waller and the princess, he's just like way too trusting, which is kind of funny. Considering like what kind of character he's supposed to be, like a grizzled hero in charge. I guess he's sort of like the. I don't actually know what archetype he fits in because he's not super relevant as the story goes on. But he goes. So he starts a sentence off by saying, "Hey, my son's dead, but I think he would have gotten along with you." And then she just enters the conversation being like, okay, wanna fuck? Like, she's like literally like, oh, I like older men, and then she just starts seducing him, and that didn't set off any red flags. Like, Jesus Christ, you're supposed to be in the military. I digress. Men are stupid, apparently. I don't know why I'm putting so much green. Whatever, I'm going for it. This kind of starts off like a thing with the princess. Is she's very sexually aggressive. And at first you kind of like brush it off because maybe it's just like she's just built like that, and they're just like playing into that trope for the women character. But then like when you like realize things like early on, it's like not that like she maybe didn't find him attractive or something. I'm not gonna put words in her mouth, but it in hindsight it definitely becomes a lot more suspicious because she like really goes for multiple times. Like she shows up in his bedroom. Oh, maybe she took him to her bedroom. I don't remember what bedroom it is. She just drops her robes. Like she's not pulling any punches. She's not wasting any time, and T doesn't think it's suspicious at all. Cause why would he? He's a attractive man. There's no way a woman would be flirting with him for no other reason. Okay, yeah, this is very green now. I do also have to decide if I'm gonna do shadows with the watercolor or with black paint. Because if I'm doing it with black paint, I might have to finish this later. Anyways, as I said, this first part of the story doesn't have it too much. It kind of just like sets up the characters and what's gonna happen later on. We kind of get a scene where Nina and the bride leave, and they're gonna go somewhere else for like some backstory time because she grew up in Pokolistan. Um, and there's like an old woman across from the palace, and she notices them leaving, and she calls up Frankenstein, who's on this like yacht with a bunch of women, very hedonistic, which is kind of like comes out of left field when you learn about his character a little bit more. Um, but I guess I don't really know like why he was there. Um. Oh yeah, the best part about this like whole episode is the fight scene between Dr. Phosphorus and Rick Flag. So basically, like, uh, Dr. Phosphorus is trying to get the shocking machine from him, and they end up having a fight scene. I think it does good to show how competent Rick Flag is, at least fighting wise. Like, he can hold up his own against someone with like powers. It also sets up some of like Dr. Phosphorus's limits. Like, if he uses too much fire, he has to reignite himself a little bit. Like he can get injured if you don't like touch him for too like directly like super hard. You can like hurt him without getting like super burnt. You can also like to a degree control how much fire damage you're gonna feel by touching him. I mean, you automatically get it, but like there seems to be some sort of control aspect to it, which I do think is very interesting. Okay, let's start working on his pants, and then we'll come back and do the orange when it's dried more. So I think it does showcase a little bit about both of their powers levels. Not that it becomes super relevant later. It's just interesting to see. And it's just a well animated fight scene, even though they kind of like Loki destroyed this lady's kitchen. And that doesn't really get brought up again. I think that's also kind of suspicious of like how placating she is. That they should have like looked at like he destroyed like a room and stuff, and she was just like, I'm gonna fuck him. And they do end up fucking, and then he realizes that they have left and no one tried to stop him. Okay. As I said, not much is happening in this episode. It just kind of sets up a bunch of characters and a bunch of character motivations and like how they're thinking. I don't really want to delve too deep into it until we get into more episodes because each episode from this point on focuses on a specific character. So I think it's better if we just use this as a jumping board and then we can actually do some character focus in the next episodes. Okay, the tourmaline necklace. So this episode's primarily about the bride. We'll be talking about her a little bit more later when we get into Frankenstein, but yeah, this is essentially what we will be focusing on at the moment. I wonder if she add some blue to this black. I don't usually experiment with colors, and so one of the reasons my art teacher hated me. It's also because I hated painting and I was really good at painting. Also because she was a dick. Anyways, so we start the episode off with Victor Frankenstein and Frankenstein. A few things to note is they do have a explicit father-son relationship. This will become... I will touch on what that means later, but like he literally calls him father, he literally calls him son. And we kind of get introduced a little bit into how Frankenstein like thinks compared to Victor. So Victor's clearly like somewhat indulging his son in a way. He has qualms about what he's doing, but like you have to like take it with a grain of salt because he did it. He wanted to create life and he did it. And he kind of went all out. Like he literally created the hugest being he could. Like, I doubt Frankenstein picked out those, like, attributes. Well, Eric, I suppose I should call him, so he doesn't get that confusing. I doubt Eric like picked out all those things, so I don't know why he's like harping on about like, oh, I don't know that much about this, and this is all new, and we're still learning things about you, so we shouldn't do this. Like it's like if you created a robot with flamethrowers, spikes, a handsaw, and gigantic Freddy like Springtrap contraction mouth, and then you were like, and then that thing was like, I want a friend, and you're like, hell, it would be kind of dangerous to do this again. We don't know what would happen, and it's like you created the worst that could happen. Short of installing a gun into this woman's arm, you can't get worse than what you created for Victor. Like, he doesn't even need super strength to crush your skull. Spoilers. I digress. Oh yeah, this is where the sex scene comes on. Who cares? There's so many sex scenes, and I'm too asexual for this. So yeah, we get a little insight into how Frankenstein works. He's very quick to anger, and he very much idealizes the concept of love. Well, Victor is sort of like, it's kind of the classic, like, you created this monster in a way, because we see how calm Victor is in response to Eric's, like, tantrums. Like, Eric will be, like, throwing a fit, and he's like, I'm just having a discussion. And it kind of, like, feels like, when you see the, like, wife versus husband things, where it's like, oh, husband's being calm and rational, wife's being irrational and emotional. And there's nothing like specific I want to bring up about that. It's just like, sometimes when you're annoyed, like in that Claire Dunphy film, when you're like annoyed or emotional and someone's just being super calm and irrational, it just makes you more annoyed. And seeing how Victor's like this scientist, and he obviously in some way believes like his thinking is right. I do believe he had a lot more to do with Eric's mental state than just, oh, I created a creature with an imperfect brain, and because of his imperfect brain, he has imperfect emotions. I think he had a little more to do with it than just like the consequences of putting emotions to someone whose emotions died alongside their brains God knows how many years ago. But we'll bring that up later for his episode. Because we also get, like, compared to him, like, the bride can experience emotions pretty well. I mean, she's, like, callous, but not in a way where it's like, oh, or something's wrong with her brain chemistry. It's like, oh, no, she's just traumatized, and she's reacting as a traumatized person would. That has to only rely on themselves to keep themselves safe. You know? Ooh, okay. That bleeded a lot more than I would have liked it to. Gonna roll with it. It's gonna be covered in black anyway. Okay. What colors am I gonna use to make brown? Okay, I heard it as I said it. I heard it as I said it. I'm just gonna add a lot of orange to this black and hope something happens. Okay, so now looking for this specific necklace that Victor gave the bride. So when the bride was first born, she was very scared of Eric, which kind of starts off like his like behavioral stuff, because he has this like idea that they're just gonna like, she's born, they're gonna be a perfect match, they're gonna live happily ever after, blah 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 blah. Like, that's just how love works. She was made for him, she'll be perfect for him, he literally picked her out. And so this is immediately shattered when he tries to like give her flowers, and she like screams in his face, and it's kind of like it's a point that keeps kind of getting like thrown at him as the story goes on, because he is a emotional, irrational being, and she reacts negatively to that because she's experiencing everything for the first time, and it's very traumatic for her. Just living is very traumatic in and of itself, and like living with someone that irrational is also traumatic in and of itself. God, it's so hot in here. Basically, his like dreams are being shattered right in front of his face, because he doesn't understand how love works. He doesn't understand how humans work, and Victor is not helping, because he also is not a good, like, children learn emotions through parents, like how to regulate sometimes, and Victor doesn't really do emotions, he does logic, and so that doesn't help how irrational Eric naturally is. And then paired it with the bride just like having to start from day one basically being a child stuck in an adult body, only feeling like primal emotions like joy and fear. They can't mesh well, and Victor's just not gonna help because he's above all those emotions because he's a logical human being. So it's just a mess. It's just a mess in half. We got one person that only experiences a few emotions as a child would in an extreme sort of way. We got one that also only experiences emotions in an extreme sort of way. And then we got one who's too calm and rational and logical to fix it, because like in his mind they're doing illogical things, so if he just explains how logically that doesn't make sense, it would fix the problem. But it's not actually fixing Eric. Telling Eric, oh, that's a stupid thing to do, don't do that, isn't going to make him better at regulating his emotions, isn't going to make him more mature. And then paired that with what is essentially a child, it's just a recipe for disaster, and the disaster does come. Anyways, a scout was like looking at them and says, oh, they're here at the Frankenstein house, like come over. Other thing I wanted to kind of note is Nina kind of like asks if that's his parent, and she kind of doesn't say yes, but she doesn't say no. But when asked about his family, she's like, no, his family was in another house. His family was up the road. So, while in a way she recognizes that they're kind of a family, even though she doesn't know how to fit, she does realize that they're not his real family. They're not the people he actually cared about. Though his real family was the one up the road, the one that's like gotta go outside and got like the father. So while she recognizes he created her, she doesn't really see him so much as a father, especially not explicitly compared to Eric literally calling him father multiple times in the story. I wish we got a little bit more with like Victor's wife and family, how they like interacted with what Victor was doing in the sidelines, especially with what happened after, but I digress. We get Cersei for the first time, and she attacks the bride and Nina. So here we get like I think we get a little bit of Nina and the bride connecting for the first time, because Nina goes out of her, the bride goes out of her way to make sure that Nina is okay. She like literally lifts her out on her shoulder at one point and like tells her to run. Which I think is nice to like set up their friendship a little bit, where the bride just didn't have to like do any of that. She could have just like left her to rot. because she wasn't really like in the way at any point where she had to like physically move her. Like she went out of her way to do that. I'm gonna see if I can do this with watercolor. Maybe I shouldn't have committed. Yeah, fuck it, we ball. And we also see some of Cersei's fighting style. This gets brought up a lot more in the next episode, I believe, but so I guess we'll touch on that more there. But we can see that Nina can like hold her own against her at least. Like she's very strong, she's very capable fighter, and she's very durable, so we see some of her abilities. We don't get to see Nina's abilities at all, which is kind of funny because in the beginning we get this sort of thing where Nina isn't really shown to be like super special in any way. So like Rick Flag goes out of her way to ask like what she's bringing to the team, and she says that she's the most calm person, and also get her in the water and she will be unstoppable. I'll bring this up later, but like when Rick Flag is like talking about these people, he like brings up all these points that Amanda kind of like swats away, and we kind of see like in this first thing is, I guess I'm bringing this up now because not a lot happens in this chapter that I kind of want to bring up. Let's see. Yeah, there's another. Yeah, I guess I'll bring it up later. Okay, we'll do this dad sex scene. So basically, Eric gets cucked, except he doesn't really get cucked because she's not hers to begin with. But Victor ends up having sex with the bride, and Eric sees it happen. So this is very like a direct kind of breaking of the psyche. A lot of those other things he kind of just like brushed past, like took Victor's word that they were gonna change. Which is why I said like Victor being calm and rational isn't actually like fixing any problems. If anything, it's causing them. Because this is like the person that's calm and rational and who's supposed to be calming Eric down and being like, hey, no, don't worry. She'll come around. Just give her a second. Give her a few days. Let her learn English. Let her learn how to do this. Let her learn how to do that. And so Eric's, while he's an irrational person, he does wait. He does listen to the doctor because to him, his father is intelligent. He recognizes that at least. So he does trust what he's saying. He's like, he gets mad about it, but he listens. And this is the first time, like, his trust in his father is, like, completely shattered. Because the bride was made for him, in his, at least that's how he views it. And he was told if he waited, then eventually they would connect, and they would have the love that he wants. And the doctor has a wife, which was probably one of the many reasons why he wanted love. Because the doctor has his own family, and he gives Eric a sort of disinterested scientific love. And he probably hears about his family and his wife. And the only way for Eric to have a family, to have the love that he probably craves, that Victor isn't giving him, is to have a wife. And so this is supposed to be his chance at all those things that he thought were the best in the world, by someone he did trust. And he's an irrational person, and he ends up killing Victor, and he ends up telling the bride that he had to, and like going towards her because he still thinks that, oh, this is the only thing that was in our way. We're still meant to be together. I still picked you. You're still mine. This is still our love story. That was just a bump in the road, but I fixed it. Everything's okay now. He's gone. We can be together now that I fixed it. Because at the end of the day, Victor is still his father. He still has a logical train of thought. It is an illogical, logical train of thought, but it's still logical in his head. He still has a logical thought process. And in its way where it's like, there's a problem. Victor's with my wife. There's a solution. I kill his wife. End result, we're together. This is how I fix the problem of us not being together. And while it is, in a way, irrational, I still think that there is still some logic to be found in irrational emotional behaviors. I think some people just act purely emotional, some people react logical, some people react as a mix of both, and I think that because of who his father is, Eric acts as a mix of both, where his logic is flawed, but there's still a logical sort of conclusion and like way he does the things that he does. Anyways, the we see the bride. She like reacts the first time in like anger, and she ends up pushing him off. Like she pushing him off of her, and like a fire starts, and then she leaves and like breaks her heel in the way, and then we kind of get like this very fun extended scene of him like chasing her around. And I bring this up because we see the bride and she's like hard, callous, but we see her in these like images and like in some of the versions she's like happy, like she's happily selling this fish to like the people of the town and stuff like that. So I like to think that, as I said, like she came out relatively normal, all things considered. And I like to think that as much as like Victor probably perfected bringing back the brain in a way that doesn't like have any problems in someone's psyche and stuff like that, I like to think that the amount of time that Eric spent with Victor had a much of a contribution to his irrationality as the way he was born. But that's just like just me projecting a little bit. I don't have like that much data on it as much as like, other theories I have. Anyways, oops, I forgot to add something here. So there's like a fight scene in different decades. I do like when we have characters that live a long time. They have these like montages where we see them throughout the decades or something. So they wear like decade clothing, but every time it's like the clothes that they're wearing are older, like an older style than some of the decades that they're pretending to be in. There's also like at one point, like she was dressed up as like I think that's supposed to be a specific person. My guess is Stevie Nicks. Avril Lavigne. I don't know. I was born in 2006. I didn't even get to see 9/11. Don't spoil it. I have no idea what. Um, I'm not even gonna pretend that being a child that grows up after 9/11 just means you make 9/11 jokes way too often. We had a calendar in theater, and every time we would see it, we would change it back to 9/11. My teacher didn't like that much, but we wanted to make sure we never forgot. We have worse traits about our generation. Anyways, we're gonna go to the next scene, which is Cheers to the Tin Man. So this episode's all about G.I. Robot. And this one, there's a lot of things that people said like didn't really make sense in that character, like stories. And I think between this one and Nina were the ones that were a little harder to chew for me. But I did watch them multiple times and like sit on it, and I think I have some explanations. Oh, I made this too brown, I think. Whoops. We'll work with it. I was gonna use colored pencils along with it, but I might just straight up not. Like, that might be too much now that I think about it. I'm getting a little distracted. I just want to touch up this gray real quick. And then okay, next section. Fuck, I got water on this. Okay, so they go and they find Nina and the bride tied up, and they're like, it's a trap. They set us here so they can go back to the castle. We gotta go. And because of that, we get a scene where the Tin Man's with the Easy Company, and they're getting ambushed by Nazis, and they end up shooting everyone. And I will say, so I watched God, what's it called? I don't know, I forgot it, and that's not even relevant. Whoops. Anyways, you watch some of these like 80s like TV shows and stuff like that. And then you got these like people being like, "Oh, we used to be men. We used to do manly men things." And it's like, I've seen your action movies. You had men just tits out, covered in sweat and grime, like attractive men, and no one was supposed to find anything out. That wasn't supposed to be any sort of sexual awakening to some people. Like, I mean, be so for real right now. I just like, literally, I think his name is, what is his name? Lieutenant, yeah, Frank Rock. Literally tits out fighting Nazis. And that's not supposed to be attractive to both genders. Like, be so for real right now. Like, boys were supposed to play with naked wrestling dolls and He-Man figures, and that was not supposed to do anything for anyone. But I digress. Whatever. This. So we got Frank Rock, Bulldozer, Little Sure Shot, Wildman, Canary, Four Eyes, and Bogman, and GI Robot, and they're fighting all these like Nazis, and then they go and have a drink, and we get like the cheers to the Tin Man for the first time. And apparently we might get a movie with Sergeant Rock at some point. And the only thing I have to say to that, and is if they don't hire a man with the largest pair of naturals I've ever seen, then what's the goddamn point? What's the point of having a man with his tits out for the whole movie if they're not gonna be good? It's just wasted. It's just wasted potential at this point, okay? I don't really have anything else to say. I love watching action movies. I hate watching action war flicks. They just don't do anything for me. They're just boring most of the time. I don't really know how many times I have to see like Chris Hemsworth types out in Afghanistan killing terrorists. They never really do anything interesting. If I want to watch terrorists, I can just watch a White House fic. Those are always 10 times better than whatever they're figuring out. Wee. Okay. So then we've got G.I. Robot doing sort of a tour after the war, and he gets sold to the scientists, so we get kind of a reference to the Metal Men, right? Yeah, the Metal Men, because they get sold to, looking at my notes, Dr. William Magnus, who uses G.I. Robot to, in theory, create the Metal Men. I don't know if we'll ever get like a Metal Men TV show. Apparently James Gunn really liked them, but they exist. So that's enough for now, I suppose. Okay, just skin. I kind of did Frank Grillo dirty here. I don't really think this looks like him at all. I don't really know who this is supposed to look like. What kind of old man has a mohawk? in the military. I do kind of wonder what came first. I also kind of added way too much color to this gray, and we're going to have to roll with it. Because that's not going to fix anytime soon. Okay, well, we're just going with it. Okay, so G.I. Robot ends up getting sold to this war memorabilist. Okay. I can speak. A war memorabilist. So, he ends up getting sold. And a lot of people had questions about this because it's like, what ends up happening is he takes him to his neo-Nazi group meeting, and GI ends up killing all of them. And people are like, did he not talk about Nazis the whole time? Why would he think it was okay to take him? I don't really have any real explanations for that. I have some theories. One, maybe GI just didn't talk that much. We see him talking about Nazis, but that's in context of he's literally like campaigning for war. Like, we see G.I. Robot like sitting in the jail cell, and he's not talking to him, and he stays there so long that like plants grow on him. So I feel like people have this idea that he's very talkative, but we have to take it with the context. Like, he introduces himself to the guy, and the guy's like, oh, I don't have a military rank. So maybe G.I. just doesn't talk to him, because I don't really see him talk in any of the flashbacks. But he like immediately defers to Rick Flag the whole time, because Rick Flag has this like military like capacity, and he also feels like he's been told that he has like this war, and to him all war is fighting Nazis, and they probably told him, oh, you're gonna fight Nazis, and this is why you're doing this. So I feel like it's just a different context of like he was told a lot of things, he equates this to war, and he's talking to military people in his mind, at least in some capacity, rather than a civilian. So he ends up like talking about it way more. But that's just my theory. It's just like context wise, maybe GI isn't half as talkative as he seems, because just like, yeah, maybe GI just isn't really that talkative, especially towards like when he's not in like areas of combat and not like to people deferred to, like not unless he's like talking to. I mean, we do see him like question if like the newscasters if like anyone in here is a Nazi, but he's also again surrounded by a lot of people, so a lot of things is just like you kind of have to take the fact that maybe because he was in a smaller intimate setting with a guy that wasn't a soldier, that maybe he just didn't talk that much. Again, it's just like not everything fits into sort of an easy to digest sort of pill. You know, as much as we want our movies to make sense 100% of the time, sometimes things just happen. And you just gotta roll with it. Or you're just gonna end up hating what you're watching. Which is, like, valid, but you should have fun when you're watching something. God, that scared the shit out of me. Like, absolutely. I need a second. Goddamn. Fuck. Let's just add the brown to this man's skin. Okay. Fuck. Where were we? Oh, we also get to see a few people like in jail with G.I. Robot, which is very interesting. We get to see whatchamacallit? We get to see the Crimson Centipede. We get to see Shaggy Man. We get to see the Fisherman. We get to see, I always have to look at his name because I always say it wrong, even though I do like him, Animal Veteral Mineral Man. And they're all alongside in jail with him until he gets transferred to Amanda's care. And something that we see very interesting in this movie is, as I said before, and I said I was going to bring up later because I realized later would be a better time to bring it up, is Amanda Waller can't bring in new people. She can't use prisoners to do her war thing anymore. She has to, so to get around that, she uses creatures. But we see specifically that G.I. Robot gets tried as a human being, as an adult capable of making their own decisions in a way, because he has some sort of like artificial intelligence. So it kind of like debunks it. But I didn't know if I wanted to bring this up now or bring it up later. But I think I'm going to bring it up now because there's not a lot to be said about G.I. Like, he's a good character. He just doesn't have a lot of emotional highs and lows. Is every single one of these characters are human, at least arguably human. G.I. Robot gets tried as a human. Weasel gets tried as a human. If Weasel was not tried as a human, he would have been put down. That's what animal services do. If a dog bites someone, they will put it down. Like, they, you know? So clearly the fact that he got to live means he was probably tried as a human in some sort of capacity. Or the fact that he's, like, even allowed a lawyer means he's in some capacity considered a human being, at least legally speaking. We got the bride, who's made out of human, albeit dead ones, but it's reanimated flesh. Then we got irradiated skeleton, a guy who used to be human and then fell into a cancer machine. And then we got Chick, who used to be human and then got experimented on and then turned into human but gills. And, like, Nina literally brings it up. I mean, Bride brings it up and she's like, "You're human." And Nina's like, "No one sees me that way." And Nina's like, "Okay, and? People are racist. People are sexist. The fuck do they know?" What does that have to do with anything? I know she also means this in, like, an emotional way, but, like, I think a lot of people brought it up. They're like, "Oh, why are they allowed to do this if this person's human? Why are they allowed to do this if this person's human?" And I think that's the whole kind of fucking point. Like, they're all human. They're all able to be determined in some way or another as a human being. Like, it's arguable. And the reason it's like, it's supposed to be like this kind of dehumanizing, like, othering thing. It, like, first sets up that even though, like, metahumans exist to a certain degree and all these, like, creatures and accidents and things that sort of happen, there's still some sort of prejudice. Like, people still don't consider them human sometimes, like, especially law enforcement. And, like, clearly Amanda Waller exploits that. Like, I don't, as, like, a black woman in this position of power, I bet she's definitely had to deal with some sexism, racism in her life. And I think she would be the type to take advantage of that. Be like, these people, they would have a hard time, like, not a lot of people would campaign for them. They can easily fall through the cracks because they're not what a stereotypical human would be. So you could easily argue the fact that they're not. And then she can take advantage of that. Because Amanda Waller, she's very much for the greater good. She also very much will shoot you in the back if she has to. She's very manipulative. She's very much end goal. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you're there. So I don't see why she wouldn't take advantage of these people who fall through the cracks, these people who aren't human enough to be considered, to be treated fairly in society, but human enough to be tried by the judicial system. And I see she could easily, like, convince people to let her to take them into her prison and, like, convince legislation that, oh, they can fight wars, they can do what we want. Who cares about them? Like, no one's gonna fucking bawl their eyes out at Child Killer McGee over there. And I think that's the whole point. I think they're supposed to be arguably human in a way. Because if they weren't humans, you would just be using aliens. Like, they would be built in a way where they're clearly not humans. It would just be a bunch of aliens and robots. That's not interesting. It's supposed to be arguably one way or another. Someone could say, oh, they're human. Someone could say, oh, they're not. There's supposed to be that sort of discourse there that allows them to be taken advantage of by the judicial system because there's no one fighting for them. Because it's a gray area whether or not they deserve thought, they deserve care, they deserve someone fighting for them, they deserve any sort of, oh, maybe there's something more to the story that we don't know. As we see with Nina later, the way she was arrested is like, why? Like, sort of my point was like, these are people, they're not only bad people, more or less, at least according to the public, but they're also inhuman. And so Amanda Waller can easily be like, oh well, they died. Who cares? You know, no one is gonna miss them. It's like serial killers targeting prostitutes and homeless people. It's a sort of like, well, they're kind of, at least to the general public, it's easy to frame them as someone who is inhuman or incapable of being thought of in a way, in like an emotional sort of, I feel bad for them kind of way. Like someone that wouldn't generate a lot of sympathy, who wouldn't be forgotten, who can easily be construed as something lower class. Yeah, that's basically, I don't really know how to end this, but that's basically what I think it's the whole point is that, yeah, all of them can be considered human in some way or another. Like, literally Superman talks about how, even though he's not human, he feels like he's human because he does all these things. Like, that's kind of the whole point. Is being human isn't, like, presenting as the way society wants you to be. It's not being a trad wife or something like that. It's not like, there's not one right way to be human. I mean, being human is how you feel, how you act, how you think. It's not how you present yourself to society. I succeed my point, I suppose. Where are we? Oh, okay. So the gun finally sets GI Robot free. GI ends up, like, I'm on episode 3 right now, and I only finished Rick Flag. I really thought I was faster at color painting, because why wouldn't I be? Oh, fuck. I overdid that. Not that it wasn't super black. I just didn't want to follow the reference that closely. We're pivoting. Sorry, that just threw me off guard. I can, like, talk very well, and then I can, like, lose it all in the span of a second. It's very impressive in a sort of, like, sad kind of way. I'm often impressive in a sort of sad kind of way. Or just plain old weird. We're gonna finish 94.7 The Wave. I don't know why that popped in my head. Okay. We just have to do the shadows and the hair, and then I actually finished 1 out of 7 people, and we are 3 episodes in, because I can manage my time. I don't really know if you can hear my mom in the background. Okay. Did I finish them? Oh yeah, I have to do his stupid gloves. Okay. So Rick Flag finally says his Hydra words. He says there's Nazis, kill them. And so that's what G.I. Robot does. He kills a bunch of Nazis until he gets shot in the face. At this point, they're back at the castle trying to save it. A lot of people are getting shot. And We get a sort of cheers to the Tin Man when he dies. Nina comforts him. They have a sort of fun little friendship where she, like, in the beginning, she makes sure he gets some food, and he, like, says that he, in his own words, he enjoys her company, and he, like, goes out of the way to make sure she's okay, and, like, lifts the bathtub after she's been, like, captured, and lifts it into the car. So they got a fun little scene, and this is kind of like, okay, so Wonder Woman is kind of known in the DC community to get hoed consistently, and there's a joke going around where actually Harley Quinn is the third member of the Trinity and not Wonder Woman, but how often she just gets fucking hoed. Whether it be Elseworld stories, her own stories, her villains, and the Wonder Woman communities are mad most of the time. I mean, with good reason. There's only so many times you can get pushed down where it's just like, okay, come on. It's kind of funny, like, some communities get consistently hoed and they're just like, give us something, and some communities get, like, consistently hoed and they're like, we're gonna riot. And, I mean, of course it would be the Wonder Woman fans. I mean, I think they are being surprisingly magnanimous considered how many feelings they have about it all on any given basis. But there is some discord around the fact that the Weasel was the one to bring down Cersei. Arguably one, I'm not going to say if any, because I'm not, I like Wonder Woman, but I'm not her fan. I don't know her whole rogue gallery. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about her rogue gallery like I know which ones are the strongest and which aren't. But I know she's up there. How she gets hoed by the Weasel. And to that I say, you gotta look through the hurt, guys. I don't actually... She was sucker punched, okay? She was literally sucker punched. They didn't say, oh, the Weasel is stronger than her. Oh, the Weasel is faster than her. Oh, the Weasel is better than her. Like, I watch a lot of fight scenes. Something I do a lot. It's something I find really fun. And I think there's often, in choreography, two different kinds of fight scenes. We got the one where it feels like an actual fight, and then you got the one where it feels like a dance, where there's like, and I do this, and then you do that. And I think both of them can work in different contexts, but this is in live action. So I am kind of putting live action, like, details on this. When I see people, like, women fighting against a guy, a lot of the things that happen is the woman has to do something crazy to win. More often than not, the woman isn't winning by being stronger, she's winning by being more smarter. And sometimes it works, like we got like a 5 foot tall woman against like a 6 foot tall man. And sometimes, like in the Fast and Furious, it's like, god damn. If Vin Diesel's character can fucking throw, like, have a fist fight in the middle of the street, punching out cars, then Letty can fucking punch a woman to death. Like, let her win one fight based on her strength. Boom, not another, oh, she had to push him off the baluster again. Like, she can't even win against the women. It's ridiculous, but I digress. So you look a lot about how fighting. So the way that Cersei fought throughout both episodes, and she fought a lot with her hands, and she was very good with like doing all these spells. And we see like the bigger the spell is, the more she has to think about it, the more she has to concentrate, the more she's vulnerable. She wants to do a stronger spell, she has to charge it up, and it's a little vulnerable. We also see that when she is surprised, she has a hard time reorienting herself. There's two different kinds of being very adaptive in battle. There's being like, oh, this punch didn't work, let me try something else, kind of adapted. And there's, oh, I got my shit rocked, let me get back up and keep fighting before they punch me while I'm down. There's, you gotta be adaptive in two different ways to be a very good fighter. Cersei is only adaptive one way. When an attack doesn't work, she can switch out and do a more effective attack, because she did some, like, bouncy arms. But she's not good at adapting when she gets punched in the face. Like, we see when she gets surprise attacked by the bride, it takes her a second to remember where she is, remember she's in trouble, and remember a spell that can help her out. Because she's not, like, as strong as the bride. She's stronger than Weasel, but she's not as strong as the bride. At least that's what it felt like. So she's not adaptive in that way. And so when the bride got surprise attacked her, the bride was able to get up multiple attacks really quickly before Cersei was able to be like, her brain was able to catch up and, like, attack her. And then when she attacked her, like, the bride ended up taking a little bit more damage than Cersei did, even though she ended up getting, like, 5 punches in a row. She didn't even got her shit rocked when Cersei woke up. So that's why she had to focus on these, like, surprising her and then doing these blitz attacks, because it was the only way she could defeat her, even though the bride was stronger than her. So I don't see how that makes her a bad fighter. Like, Cersei weaker, especially since the Weasel surprise attacked her and then started tearing into her skin, and the second Cersei was able to get some sort of awareness and was about to, like, push the Weasel off so she could, like, get some sort of attack out, Dr. Foster burnt her face off. So yeah, the Weasel surprise attacked her in a way she was consistently shown to be weak to. And then Dr. Phosphorus took advantage of that and did an attack that is harder to come back from than a couple scratches. Because she didn't look down for the count when she got scratches. She just fell off a building and got scratched up, and she needs a second to reorient herself, and she wasn't able to get that because Dr. Phosphorus took advantage, as he should, because they were fighting her. Like, they're also set up as bad guys. They're not gonna do this whole, oh, let me wait until you're okay so I can defeat you fairly. Like, no, fuck that. They're taking every advantage they can get. We're not gentlemen brawlers. This is the streets. So that's why I don't really get, like, the discourse. You know, they wanted to use a clairvoyant. They wanted to set up Themyscira. I think I do, and also we are shown that Cersei has, like, been arrested before by Superman, presumably because she had a Metropolis arrest thing. So it's not like it will be the first time she's getting. Oh fuck! I fucked things. Oops. It's fine. We're pivoting. Yeesh. Yeah, we'll pivot. It's fine. We'll pivot. I'm pivoting a lot. It's fine. I'm fine. This is why you don't use broken, this is why you don't steal bad supplies from me, teacher. Because then they end up being bad supplies, and then you have to do the surprise Pikachu face. So, well, who could have seen that happen? Anyways, let's get some water in my system before I start being able to talk soon. We're at the end of this. Yeah, so they've arrested Cersei. The princess is safe. This is kind of, we get the first insight into how the princess war kind of moves around. This isn't the right blue. I don't have time to mix the right blue, so we're pivoting. That's kind of the word of the day now. We kind of get, like, this insight into a princess's kind of ruthlessness. I don't think this scene was framed very well. Like, she seemed very, very scared for absolutely no one. She was capable. She ended up shooting 2 people before Cersei captured her. Um, which just show her like how capable she is as like a fighter and as a person and as a leader. Um, but I felt like it could be she could have been a little she should have been a little less scared during it. Um, especially for what they set up later. It's a lot of blue. Maybe I shouldn't have done this much blue. Yeah, I'm not good at watercolors. Anyways, end of episode 3. 4 more left. And I haven't even finished the second person. God damn it, I'm gonna have to be working on this after stream. Because there's no way I'm gonna get this done anytime soon, is there? Well, fuck. I'll make like a blue undertone, so when I add the black, it will look a little better. Well, I am glad that I decided to do the outline before. I was like, I don't know if I have enough time to talk and do the outline. I don't even know. But now it's like, I don't even know if I have enough time to finish this. But we're pivoting. I probably should stop saying that. Okay, chasing squirrels. So this one's all about the weasel. So the story starts off with them bringing Cersei back, and like Rick says bye to the princess by kissing her because they're like in love or whatever. I don't really care for romantic subplots. Don't expect me to say a lot about it. If it's not toxic in any way, then I have nothing to provide. Or I blame it on the fact I read 50 Shades of Grey too early, and now I can only talk about how toxic love works. Ooh, okay, this actually looks kind of good. I don't really know where to put my shit down. Okay. We get introduced. So they touch down with Cersei. We see a guy in the background looking at them, and we see this lawyer who's talking to Dyebeard, and she's like, "Where's my client?" And then the client ends up being Weasel, and we learn that he didn't actually kill like 23 kids. It was only like 8. You know, what a saint. And we get a little flashback of him pulling like kids and him in a fire. Then we also get a scene of Eric hiring these guys to see where the bride is. He sees them like pulling from a helicopter up above, and it's like, as we, oh fuck, I just cleaned my room. We know that, is that orange or red? It's by the yellow, so I assume it's orange. Yeah, okay, this is right. So we get introduced to these guys in a helicopter who are driving around Eric to show him where the bride is. And he's like, who is she with? Because he immediately gets jealous, which is a juxtaposition because we first see him, he's like doing something inherently hedonistic, where he's like on a yacht with a bunch of pretty naked, half naked women. But he gets jealous of the fact someone he considers attractive is with her, probably because of what his father did. And then, so something that I thought was mentioned is he mentioned that he was in Jahanpur with Rick Flag. which makes sense why he was like called into the conflict, first of all, in Superman. And also, like, I kind of like joked around that the reason John Bourne might not have a occupying military force is because maybe America did something and they signed a treaty that didn't give them a lot of military power. And maybe that did happen. I'm not gonna throw imperialism around all willy nilly, but also I don't know if it's imperialism. I just passed AP World. I didn't remember anything. Um, but I'm less surprised, I will say. Okay. I don't know how dry this is. If I start doing the red, and if the black bleeds into the red, I'm fucked. But I think it's doing good. Also, my voice is starting to get fucked. So she said, okay, where am I? Okay, so we see, like, Eric very jealous, which is a contrast to what we've seen before, where he's just, like, mad because the person he loves doesn't want to be with him, and he's annoyed about that he doesn't get this love. And now we see him as jealous, assuming that everyone around him wants to be his bride, assuming that everyone around him sees him as not enough for her. Okay. I'm fine. I'm hot. I'm also probably undiagnosed ADHD because I just forgot what I was saying. Damn. Okay. Where were we? Oh, yeah. So he thinks the other guy is making fun of him because he can't grow facial hair. And it's just a point of contention for him. He thinks he's not enough for her, but he also thinks he's the only one for her. And it's a thing in his head. My day going? I can't complain. I don't have school until like 2 weeks. You know? So, all things considered, I didn't have to do shit today. And I got like 6 hours of sleep last night, which is saying a lot for my insomniac ass. Okay, yeah. So he crushes the. Does this red look fine? Whatever. So he crashes the helicopter. They all end up dying. He like writes Rick Flag's name on his hand. Eric's kind of a diva. Rick Flag's the easiest name to remember. It just is. He didn't need to write that. He didn't need to kill the pilot. Especially since he ends up not killing a pilot later. But I guess he's just sort of irrational like that. Anywho's, what's it? We get sort of. Oh, God. I can't write. Okay, so we get the interview with Cersei. They basically call her a whore and a slut. To be fair. Or they call all villains whores and sluts. Say it's a little much. They reference a lot of TV shows out of the gate, and I guess they just all also exist in this universe. Basically, they ask like why she wanted to kill the princess, and she says she's gonna kill the world. So we kind of get like a little bit of like Cersei does like evil things, but she doesn't. She's not nihilistic in the way where she wants the world to be destroyed. Because she likes the world, because she likes taking things from it. So when she got her sort of vision, she, decides to take matters into her own hands and kill herself. and they mention that she's probably clairvoyant. It's in her files, and Amanda Waller goes in to get the message. We get to see Gorilla Grodd for the first time. We also get to see a bunch of heroes in the background getting killed, including but not limited to Superman, Hawkgirl, Judo Master, Peacemaker, Green Lantern Guy Gardner, Cyborg, Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Starfire, and maybe a Robin, and Wonder Woman. Then we kind of get a flashback back into Weasel sort of thing where we see him playing with some school children, and they like throw a ball around and they give him food, and he's just like playing with them. And the creatures go back to their prison cell. Ugh, that's unfortunate. Says why I don't like watercolors. Can't fix anything. Then I was like, oh, you can put water on it. That's stupid. No, there's probably 1,000 ways you can fix your fuck ups, and if you do something bad in watercolor. I'm just not smart enough to remember any of them in the time I'm supposed to, so we're just gonna roll with some places being really fucking ugly. Do we need to put red in it? Oh yeah, her lip. I don't know why that song keeps popping in my head. Ah, fuck. Well, it's black. We'll put that back. We get introduced to a few of the other characters that are in jail, including, but not limited to, Nosferatu, Congarilla, who dies, Chemo, Warren Griffith, Rubber Duck, Egg Foo, Khalees, Orca, and the Bug-Eye Bandit. I only know a few of those. I know Orca because she was with King Shark, I believe, or Killer Croc. It was Killer Croc. And they had like a cool relationship. Some versions she's actually really hot. I don't know why I felt the need to mention that. That's kind of my sort of standing on it. Egg Foo. It's kind of got the sort of Mandarin racism stank on him. But they recently like revamped him so he looks 100% less racist than he used to. I think they recently revamped Crimson Centipede. Not that maybe he was racist to centipedes, but he just looked funky. He had that Silver Age, Golden Age kind of inherent silliness to him, and then they kind of like got rid of that. There's mixed like thoughts on if like people should take the silliness out of like all these old characters. I think sometimes it's for the better, like with Egg Foo, because his silliness is racism. His silliness is he's an Asian egg that's yellow and has a funny mustache. But then you got like the Crimson Centipede, and his silliness is he's a centipede man. And then I think like I think it was a Blorbo thing where people didn't like that. As I said, it's a sort of like mixed bag. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just have to lean into the silliness, like with Snowflame or the Red Bee. Sometimes you need to lean away with it, like with Egg Foo. I can't really comment on what they did with the Mandarin. I don't really care that much about Iron Man villains. I'm assuming he's an Iron Man villain. Heading home to fight ranks. Okay, they get this doctor lady. She's a scholar from Themyscira, and basically her job is to validate whether or not Cersei is clairvoyant, like whether that's like a credible sort of fact. And like she's the leading expert on Themyscira. No one's allowed on that island. People are aware of its existence, but they like clearly doubt a few things. Like Rick Flag clearly doubts that there's no men on the island. He's like, we're really gonna. He believes that they're lying about something. Um, but she validates that, yeah, it exists. Yeah, there's no men. Yeah, there's text saying that she saved Amazons from a horrific hurricane. And then they do the whole like, well, if she could see into the future, why didn't she stop the weasel? And then, well, she is basically like, well, they can't see what they're gonna see. They can't choose what they're gonna see. It just sort of happens. And he's like, well, that's convenient. So he's like, he's in love with the princess. They're telling him that they gotta call everyone back and kill the princess. And he's not vibing with it. He's like, we're just gonna trust the word of the criminal. And we're just gonna let this happen. And it's like, Rick Flag. Oh, Rick. The criminals are the people you work with. Maybe ask Amanda what really happened to her son one of these days. So, just want to get this black part right, because it's a delicate little area. And if I fuck this up, and I can't fix it later. Okay. So he's like trying to fight it, and Amanda's set. She got all the information she needs. And she says, if you're not gonna come join us, then we're gonna do it by himself. And he says, okay. And he leaves. And as I said, we get introduced to the other creatures in jail and stuff. And Congarilla kind of gets his shit stomped in. He's most likely dead. And the reason is because the bride goes out her way to help out Nina, which shows them like becoming more friends, even though it's reluctant on the bride's part. Maybe it's because she can't trust friends. Maybe it's because Eric killed a few friends. Maybe it's just because she's just too jaded. We're not really sure why exactly she doesn't trust people, but it sort of is a fact. Oh, I put this part on too wet. So we're like treating a bunch of this stuff as fact. I don't know if I should have avoided that for this part. Anyways, so Bride's now in charge, and she's the one that gets to bring them all back on the plane to kill the leader. Jesus Christ, I'm almost done with episode 4. And I'm still only on the second character. I am so slow. It's fine, I guess. I'll just work on this in the off time. At least I'll get to use the fan. Is there any shadows here? Some, I suppose. Okay. Should I do the... I guess I should do the belt while I have the chance. So they get put on the plane. Rick Flag drives back, and he gets attacked by Frankenstein. And they get a little, fight scene where Frankenstein calls him a Dilfy piece of shit and says that, of course, the bride's in love with him. She's in love with everyone, and everyone's in love with her. Because to an extent, the bride's an extension of himself. And, like, if she's not perfect and the people she's into aren't perfect, one, he has nothing to be mad about. Because, as I said, like, he's still inherently logical. into, like, she's not worth him because he thinks he has a inflated sense of self. He's, like, very much a narcissist. Probably also got that from his dad.
Jasmine
And
underscore Chris 1 took vitamin C.
purple is the shadow color of everything. So when in doubt, and you don't want to mix an actual shadow color, and you don't want to use black, just put some purple on it. Okay. What color should I do her skin? He says that she's like teal, but she's like a really light teal, and I feel like it's more green in it than a true teal. This is like turquoise. I guess turquoise and teal are two different things, huh? And that's neither of them. Whoops. Okay, this isn't really gonna look like her skin tone. I'm not that good at color matching. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I am. We're just gonna go for it. This is a lot darker than her skin tone. I could do color matching a lot easier if I can, like, see the colors I'm matching. Watercolor, you kind of just have to assume you're making the right color. Anyways, let's get into Weasel's backstory a little bit. So, the way the Weasel story works is he's playing with these kids that no one is fucking watching in this backwards ass town, or they just let their kids play at the schoolyard or wherever they are. And the kids get into the building they're playing around, and they get inside and they start messing with whatever they can find. They literally just start playing with matches. And there's this, like, I don't know, well-meaning groundskeeper that sees the animal enter them and see the animal playing with them, and immediately sees there's some sort of danger. So he calls the cops, he grabs his gun, and he follows them in. The kids are just playing around, and they eventually get to the basement, where one of them throws a match, while one of them throws a ball. Some deadly Rude's girl brood machine, and now we got kind of a little bit of a leak, kind of a little bit of a fire. No one's paying attention, and then the guy goes down and he sees all this happening, and he, like, shoots his gun, and it sets off one of these tanks, and now there's an explosion. A lot of the kids are dead. A lot of the kids are dying. The girl that he connected the most to, Weasel did, she's alive, but she's struggling. At this point, the police have arrived, and they see Weasel dragging out the kid. They immediately assume he has a kid. I guess they assume it's dead. I don't know. Police people are stupid sometimes. So they immediately shoot at Weasel, even though he has a live kid in his hands. And the kid ends up dying with Weasel, like, being shot multiple times. Because he wasn't able to get her out at time, because he got shot like 7 times. And so they try him, immediately assume he killed all those kids. Because he can't say what happened, so all we have is the word of the people that were there. I think I'm a little sick. And oh fuck. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, Dios mío. Too much black. Oh. Oof. Oof. Okay. Pivoting. If we had more of this blacky grit teal, then it was on purpose or something. I don't know. Pivoting. Where's the black supposed to go? Okay. So we get that backstory. We also get, like, the person that works for him is desperately trying to connect with him in some sort of way, because she's basically fighting for a patient that cannot speak. And we see some sort of recognition with the blonde girl, but then he ends up eating the thing. So it's very. His intelligence is very confusing. Um, he has a limited intelligence capacity. He can understand some words better than others. Um, he understands when people are in danger and how he needs to help them. So his intelligence is very whatever like the scene needs it to be very much. Which is a little annoying, but whatever. Like the whole thing just makes you feel bad about Weasel because he literally can't speak for himself, and everyone just assumes he's like a child killer. And one of those children, at least, or at least most of them, if some adults were watching them, would have survived if they just like didn't assume the scary animal did something. But as I said, it kind of participates to the whole like thing where these people are considered less than human, even though they arguably are, and that has like all these consequences to them and like the people who care about them, as we see later with Nina. God, just need a little pink. I'm assuming this is pink. Said pink. There we go. Okay. As I said, I kind of fucked up. There's black in places there shouldn't be black, and I can't fix it. So it is what it is. It's not like I'm really hanging this up anywhere, I suppose. I don't like watercolor. Let's do felt buckle, and then I'm almost finished with the bride. Yeah, that's right. I'm not. I'm not there. I'm so gonna have to do this later. I need to get better with my time management when it comes to these things, because I'm gonna end up doing a painting one, and painting takes me like 5 hours, and there's no way in hell I can talk for 5 hours. Like, I'm a yapper, but I have limits. Also, it's too hot because I have to turn off my fan. And that's just excruciating. We're just adapting. Just gonna pivot. It's kind of the moral of the story now. Pivoting. Okay. That's about all of Chasing Squirrels. So now we're on the Iron Pot, and this one's about Frankenstein, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, this one's about Frankenstein. So basically, Rick Flag and Frankenstein end up having this heart to heart. And as I mentioned before, Frankenstein, he's very romantic. It's kind of interesting. He's very prone to violence, prone to anger. But the way he talks about love and his like likes and differences are, at least societally speaking, feminine. Like he watches a lot of chick flicks. He like wants to cuddle and stuff. He describes his like wants as kind of feminine. When he's talking to a bus driver later, and I just think it's an interesting contrast to how he is as a person. I'm just gonna take my socks off because it's getting too much for me. I just think that's an interesting sort of juxtaposition to his character. He's inherently violent, but despite the fact that she doesn't like him and he thinks that she does, he never talks about his love in a very violent way towards her. Like he doesn't use a lot of like sexual threats. We don't really like see him like grope her. There is like the inherent fact that like he thinks that she'll like it, and if he does ever catch her, he's gonna do some shit. Um, but it's the way he talks about her. It's never like sexually violent. It's all it's like in a sort of like a stalker kind of, oh, we're in love. She's just playing a game. This is something fun we do. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but it just feels different the way he describes it. And I do like the fact that Rick Flag has seen a bunch of rom-coms. And he has enough opinions about it to be like, I don't think that's what's happening in that scene. When I'm talking about when Harry met Sally. Anyways, because Rick Flag talks about his love, Frankenstein decides to work with him. We also see like Frankenstein also like build up Rick Flag's love. Rick's like, oh, we only knew each other a couple days. I don't think we're in love. And then he's like, you're in love. You guys love each other. You guys are having great times. So he just romanticizes love in general. Like, it's just like an idealized sort of like, and I bet the creation of rom-coms definitely escalated it. I wish we could have seen him like read some sort of romantic book. I think it would be funny if he was just like reading 50 Shades of Grey or something. But I digress. So they visit the house and they see. No, they visit the college to like spy on the professor, and they see her not like acting very professional. Like she's like flirting with a student, and she makes like a Themyscira lesbian joke that the island is just full of lesbians. And it's very different contrast from what we saw there. But they use that as an excuse to sort of break into her house because she's distracted. And it's just a sort of, that's interesting, and it's a little foreshadowing for later. So they break into her house, and in the house they find that the professor is dead, which means that what they saw at the college was some sort of shapeshifter. And Rick Flag immediately says, oh, Cersei tricked us. I gotta go save the princess. And he like calls her up and warns her. And then they realize that the fake professor's coming home, so they go and hide. Frankenstein sort of. I just like the way he talks. It's like, come on, I don't give a shit. Like what? But he like allows Flag to he like indulges Flag a little bit. I also think it's fun that Frankenstein inherently romanticizes, because I don't really know the other word for it, every sort of relationship in his life. Like he connects with Rick Flag one time and one time only, and they are friends. Did I really just do one character per hour? I'm gonna kill myself with a gun. I'm fine. I'm not freaking out. Whatever, these are the characters we see the most of. She says, hopefully. So the creature comes, and it turns out to be Clayface. So this is our first chance into Clayface in the DCU. He's a shapeshifter. He plays Mortal Kombat. And he was hired by someone to pretend to be the doctor, and presumably he was hired sometime soon in order to fulfill this role, because the body is fairly fresh. I do like how he cares for the cat a little bit, even though he doesn't care that much. So they try to sneak out. He ends up catching him. They have a fight scene. As I said, it's clearly like Rick Flag's capable, but he's not like Batman. Because like Clayface like breaks his back, a la Bane style, and just like, oof, down for the count. Frankenstein's stronger. And I assume he doesn't have to breathe in the same capacity as like Rick Flag does, so he doesn't like suffocate, and he ends up like electrocuting Clayface. And we kind of The tricky thing is, we know we're gonna get a Clayface like horror style movie sooner or later. We also know that Clayface sometimes this shit just kind of happens to him, and he kind of just like walks it off. We also know that there's like three different Clayfaces because it kind of just keeps happening. So we don't really know if he's dead, or not, because he's just kind of one of those characters, or he could be dead, and it wouldn't affect that much of the story, even if they are making a Clayface movie, because they could just use a different Clayface, or he could be very much alive. Um, in like it's like a prequel or an afterquel, and he just sort of like lives this and escapes or something, or like it's from the future. I mean, from the past. Um, because he's just kind of one of those characters. Anyways, just probably flip the page. Um, we also see some more of Frankenstein's selfishness by the fact that he, when his supposed best friend is dying, he's like, wait, no, you can't die yet. What about me? I still don't know if the bride talks about me. Like, did she sound like she liked me, or was she still like annoyed, and just being a narcissist, thinking only about him? In this moment, even while Flag is dying, and we also get some insights into Frankenstein as a character, also in this episode. So that's kind of what happens in the episode. So we'll talk about the flashback a little bit. So we know that Eric ends up killing his dad, and then the bride sort of hits a candle and hits him, and he sort of gets set on fire. So that happens, and the bride runs away, and Eric ends up like burning and then running into a lake, and then he kind of like drowns in the lake, and he gets saved by this. I can't say that word. What's the? Not Slavic woman. Let's call her named Bogdana. And she ends up using like healing stuff on him, and brings him back to health. And she like talks about how, beauty isn't what you see, it's what you feel, and she sees beauty every day, even though she can't see. And Eric in her like asks what the point of it, like her doing the things she does, just like living in general, if she can't see anything, and she explains another like thing about, and like Eric talks about how he wants to see her bride again, and like gets food for him, and this is another scene that people talk about a lot for good reason. So basically, Eric has to leave. He has to go find his bride. He stayed there too long, and Bogdana tries to convince him to stay, saying stuff like, oh, she does not love you. And he's like, no, you just don't understand. This is a game. And she's like, please don't leave. I'm so lonely. I don't want to be alone. Because it hurts her. She's old, you know. They considered it in part of her family. And I saw a lot of people being like, this was like sort of a mercy thing, because he ends up like killing her. He finds someone object heavy enough to kill her. And so a few things I want to talk about with this scene. God damn, my voice. First things first. God, I'm sick, sorry. Eric, to a certain degree, clearly cares for Bogdana. you could see that in one, he makes sure to find the object, like, heavy enough to, like, probably one-shot her. Because he could just do it with his hands. So, presumably, he's finding a weapon that would kill her as instantly and painlessly as possible. Presumably. And second of all, when she says, I don't want to suffer, and he's like, I'll make sure you won't. And then she's like, well, where's Ivan? And he's like, I don't think you would understand. So he cares about Bogdana and Ivan to a certain degree. One, he doesn't want Ivan to see what's happening. Even though he's like a dog, he doesn't want Ivan to get sad. And two, he clearly is doing this because he believes that he has to, in a way. Which gets brought up a little bit more. Like, people... So Bogdana's blind. She cannot see. And to Eric, again, as I said, like, a lot of his actions, I believe, are based on the person he was raised with. A logical scientist. He does not see Bogdana having a lot of inherent worth because of her disability. So he loves her, he cares for her, but he also sees her as this second-class citizen in a sort of way. Not that he sees other people as first-class citizens beside his bride, but he definitely sees her as less than them. It's kind of like parents or like loved ones that like care about their neurodivergent or mentally unhealthy kid, but then they see these as like ableism language, and it's like, well, I've seen people talk to prisoners with more care than you did, you know? Like, I've seen a mother forgive her daughter's killer in a more kind way than you just treated that child for making a simple mistake. It's kind of like, yeah, he cares about her, but he also doesn't respect her or her life that much, because to him it's inherently worthless because she cannot see. It's a mix of that, and it's also the fact that he has to go. He has to find his bride. He has to find her. It's his driving force. And she would slow him down. She is not physically able to keep up. And she is blind. So keeping her around while he does that would be stupid. And keeping her alive while he goes do that would be cruel. Because she like saying like she doesn't want to be alone. So in a way he doesn't want to cause her suffering. But he has to go and he can't take her. So he kills her. This is him showing mercy to her because she is a second-class citizen to him. In a way, like, yeah, he cares about her, but like, if this is what you do for someone you care about, I'm like, I don't want that care. So, as I said, he has this logical thought process that's, you know, not really logical, but to him it makes sense, and you can follow the line of thought where he's like, I have to go. I cannot take her. She cared for me, and I care for her in some sort of way, and leaving would cause her harm, would cause her suffering, and taking her would cause me suffering. So, the thing I must do is kill her. That way, she does not suffer, and I can leave. This is what him caring for someone looks like, which is, I think, is interesting. This is the first time we can assume he cared about his dad, but we didn't, like, see it all that often. This is the first time we've seen him, like, caring about someone and what that care looks like to him, where he decided that killing her would be the merciful thing to do. Because also, you have to look into the fact that he idolizes love, he idolizes companionship, he idolizes a family, and Bogdana has none of that. So to him, taking all of that away is also the cruelest thing he can do. And So and by taking it away, something he has to do, he would be causing her what he assumes to be the worst thing he could do. To him, taking away her family, which is him and Ivan, is the worst thing he can do. And he can take Ivan because, as he established before, Ivan can provide some warmth. Ivan can be quiet. Ivan can provide some companionship. And presumably he keeps Ivan till Ivan dies, because Ivan's a dog. And dogs live only so long. But, yeah, all of this is a mercy to him. Because living without companionship is the worst thing. Someone is the worst punishment to Eric. And death isn't, so he gives her a quick death. So it's a mix of a lot of different things. Like, he sees her worth as a friend, maybe even like some sort of mother or aunt figure, but he does not believe it to be above a lot of things. It's an interesting dynamic. Sorry. I'm like a cat sometimes. I thought I saw something and I reacted. I'm gonna add more brown here. Beep 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 beep. Finally working on Weasel. The top right here. Do I have a better pink? I have a magenta, I suppose. It's better than using red. Okay. So he ends up killing her, and this is his act of mercy. This is Eric being kind. This is Eric caring for someone. We also see it again because he brings Rick Flag to a hospital when he sees that he cannot support himself. So as I said, like, he cares. It's just because if he didn't care at all, he would just have left Rick there and he would have died. But like his care is kind of toxic in the way that he might just decide the best thing for you is to kill you. If he cannot rationalize that you care for him when you're not, at least in the moment, he will attack you. Like the way he cares about people, his love has a lot of these conditions and can turn violent very fast. Because logically that was what feels like the next best step towards him. I don't really have a good pink, so we're gonna have to use this bright pink. I might have to go back in with white to do these teeth again, now that I think about it. But again, we are pivoting. Okay, did I finish all that? Yeah, he kills Bogdana, he takes Ivan, presumably Ivan lives a long life. We also see his compassion in the way that he believes that Ivan will gain some sort of sadness from this death, and he wants to spare him of it, which I think is cool. We also see like his delusion, like Bogdana's literally telling him, oh, she doesn't want you, and he's like, no, this is just a game. She'll want me, and it's been like hundreds of years, and she still hasn't wanted him. And he's not about to change that anytime soon. It's what drives him. if he were to confront the reality that she does not want him, it would break a lot of his thought and his logic. And he would have a breakdown. Not that he's already like emotionally unbalanced and like talking about certain things won't set him off, but he will go real suicidal real quick if he were to ever actually accept that reality. So maybe it's for the best of the humanity, if he believes that this is all a game and she actually loves him and he can love. Because he also has to be like, this was someone made for him to love, made to love him, and if the person made to love him does not love him, then the thing that he wants so much, like love and companionship, he has to be like, nope, that doesn't happen for me, because if the person made for me doesn't love me, then no one loves me. And that's why I said it would break him. It's less about the bride, because none of this is really about her, if you think about it. And it's more about the fact that if she doesn't love him, the person made for him, then no one loves him. And then he'll never be in love. And that's the one thing he wants, is love. So that's mostly what it's about. Alright, I'm almost finished with Weasel. So that means 3 characters, more or less. I got the other parts of Dr. Phosphorus. I just have to wait for him to dry off. His blue eyes, right? Or brighter than that, whatever. I have to wait for that part of him to dry off. I think I had too many shadows on Weasel. Oh well. Is Dr. Phosphorus dry? Yeah, we can do the green now. I don't know if I have a good green for this though. I don't know why my teacher like cut these all up. It's a little interesting. Okay, where are we? Okay. Prietoskelete. So this one is Dr. Phosphorus. His turn. Here's the white star. Oh god. Oh no. Oh no. I fucked up. I fucked up. I fucked up. God damn it. One job. Just needed a green. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this episode starts off with them getting well, I'm not gonna get into his backstory, I'll get into it later. So they get ambushed because Rick's flag says, oh, they're gonna kill the princess, so they try to kill them first and they get ambushed. They end up leaving, and the princess is like, kill them all, whatever, who cares about her. So they end up like taking different paths and going different ways and stuff like that, and they all end up getting split up, and Nina and the bride end up in this whorehouse, and basically what happens is they threaten the people there to lie for them, and we get this interesting scene where the madame of the place kind of like says, do you guys want to like work here? There's a market for anything. Like, she makes a strange joke. And Nina makes some sort of like quip about self-respect, and the madame says something kind of interesting where she's basically like, there's not, functionally speaking, there's not a lot difference between you and the girls who work here. Both of you are using your bodies as a tool, albeit one way as a weapon, and the other one as like sex toy in a way. Like you're both, and it like both by doing this, by not using your body in any other way, it's not like respectful. Like whether just using your body as a tool isn't a sign of self-respect in any regards. Okay, I finished Dr. Phosphorus. So I have 3 characters left. What should I do next? So she basically says, yeah, like there's not much different by using your body as a tool in any sort of way. It is inherently um disrespectful to yourself. It is not respecting yourself. So there isn't as much of a difference as you like to think. Like I can tell you don't respect yourselves, and the only really difference between you and the people here is they're doing all this to survive. They're doing all this to live, like, and you're not. Like we don't really know if she can die. I mean, she can get hurt, but like basically, that's kind of like the idea of what she's saying is that the bride clearly has no respect for herself or others. Eventually, at some point, we get these OC guys who come in, metahumans. One of them tries to, like, pulls something on one of the women there, like, he attacks them. The Medan comes in to try and break it up. We find out that they're metahumans. She says, oh, your kind is welcome here, clearly establishing that they're something that see it often, but she's like, but you have to respect the rules and not use your powers in here. It also kinds of sets up that maybe in like some places metahumans are more accepted than others. So like she's basically saying like you can't use your powers here, and then they're like, fuck you, we have powers, and he's gonna like, you know, take advantage of the whore he just beat up, and then Nina comes in and hits him, and then Bride comes in and kills both of them. And then we get a little bit of fan service because her blouse gets all ripped up. And then we go to Weasel, and Weasel's sort of just hanging out with some wolves. It's another scene where it's just like his intelligence is whatever the scene needs him to be because he plays fetch with the wolves by like throwing the stick, and he ends up like sleeping with them and realizes it's time for him to leave and start going towards the castle and meets up with everyone at the same time. We also get like what you call it, Frankenstein's coming over to Pokolistan in a plane, and he like ends up killing all the people on the jet, so we assume he like hijacked it. I don't know, I was a little confused during that scene. But it's not that like contingent on the plot, so it's not something I should focus too much on. His helmet's gray. And what call it? Oh, okay. So now we're at Dr. Phosphorus's scene, and basically him is just like he breaks into this house and he talks to the owners of the house's daughter because she's also awake and she's at the age where she doesn't realize how scary this is. And they end up like playing in the yard a little bit, and then he like in the morning he leaves, scaring the parents half to death. And we get his backstory. So basically, his parents, his like dad died of cancer, his wife's mom died of cancer, or maybe it was the other way around. I don't remember. And they basically convince. Is that the right color? Ah, fuck. They basically convince Oh, he convinces Rupert Thorne to work for him, so he gets all the funds he needs to start his cancer research and cure cancer completely without doing all like the harsh stuff that chemo is, because chemo is a harsh treatment. Like you can't really kill a specific cells in your body without killing a lot of the cells in your body. Um, we haven't quite figured that out yet. So chemo is very rough on people, and some people just prefer to not, which is valid because it's a lot to go through just for the maybe your body will accept this. Anyways, his wife isn't so sure about this because he's working with some sketchy people, but he's like, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." But then they end up killing his wife and his son, and then putting his face in it so they can frame him for the murder of them. And basically, the reason they did that is like his deal was contingent on the fact he would share his results. And since he's doing like nuclear research, he will be sharing his nuclear secrets to a fascist regime, presumably. And he doesn't want to do that, so he faked results, and they found out, and they killed him and his wife. Well, they assumed they would kill him by throwing him into his machine as some sort of he did this suicide to himself kind of thing. Um, and it ends up changing his body because all the science experiments did. They need to stop leaving things up to science because science just changes someone's body and then makes them like a superhero. Um, and then he ends up going to Rupert Thorne's house, killing him, his wife, and his kids. I think a lot of people were like, why is every character sympathetic in some way? And a lot of people were trying to justify. Like, I heard someone literally say, oh, well, the kids were gonna grow up and be drug dealers anyway. Basically, being like, oh, those kids were worthless anyway. Good thing he got rid of them. Like, okay, okay. He also took over a drug empire. I don't think he was just handing out lollipops to people. He probably got hundreds of people addicted. The man was like children and wife were killed in front of him. He rolled around in his blood and he got irradiated. He's not okay. He's not a. He had a mental breakdown and now he doesn't care about human life anymore. He's sympathetic, sure, but he's not a good guy. Like, not by a long shot. I think I mixed this green to dark. Um, whoops. Maybe if I make this green as the solid green, and then the rest as a highlight green, then it will work a little better. Um, maybe. Anyways, so he takes over the Gotham Underground because those who don't know, Rupert Thorne is one of the main gangsters. And again, people had mixed feelings about him being out for the count. I don't care. There's other gangsters, and they could do flashbacks. You know, we got the Santinis and Morellis. No, not all of them are Gothamies, but like there's other gangsters. Um, I'm not really that stressed out that we don't get one of them. They're this might be a hot take. They're a little interchangeable in my mind. And I'll be the first to say it. I don't care enough about any of them to be saddened that one of them died, and then another one of the crime bosses has to then take over the role of whatever storyline he was involved in. Like, if it was Black Mask, yeah, I would be a little mad that Roman's gone, like, but I'm not gonna cry over freaking Rupert Thorne. There's other gangsters in Gotham. Gotham has a little bit of a problem if no one's noticed yet. Okay, well, I think that's the best that GI Robot's gonna be. So that is, well, I have to add the blacks, but yeah, add the blacks. That sounds okay to say in public. Yeah. Yeah. That means I have two more characters left and one more episode. Oh, one more thing. We see Batman for the first time during this scene. We get a fun little montage of like him before and after, whereas like he's dancing and we see like the things he cherishes the most, which was like the happiest moments of his life, which is like him with his kids, him with his wife, well, kid, I suppose. Um, Mixed with his like, I'm a cry lord now, and then Batman comes in, and we get a little scene of him, and now he's like in jail now. So he's in Batman got his ass. Um, then we see. Sorry, I mixed the black too watery, and I have to commit to my decision. And I have to be very particular about what I want to do now because I'm committing into the black runs out. Okay, so then we get the medical scene where we know a large guy with bullets in his head um, took Rick Flag in, and this is where like um, Amanda Waller goes with Diebeer to figure this out, and he says basically that, oh, it's Frankenstein. So they know that Frankenstein has been following the bride. This is just kind of something they know, which I think is kind of fun. Just oh yeah, no, that's just the guy that's been stalking her. But it also makes them like question what's going on, because they're like, if um Frankenstein knows what's happening, then he's gonna fuck everything up. So they're a little worried now. I also think it's interesting because, like, a lot of people know who Frankenstein is. He's a pretty popular um, person in media, especially like a Universal Studios monster. It's not Universal Studios. I don't know what they're called. Like, very specific kind of monster. Um, but clearly, like, Marie Shelley didn't really write that book, or if she did, it's not one. It didn't really get super popular because no one says, "Oh, it's a Frankenstein." Um, they're just like, "Oh yeah, it's some green guy with bolts in his head." I just thought that was interesting. Uh, Nothing really more to add to that. And I think, is that all for J Robot? Yeah, I think, yeah, it's all of it. So Eric finally arrives in Pokolistan, and I think he leaves the pilot alive. In the last episode, a very funny monster, and I still have two more to do. I will not probably finish it in time, but one could assume, I suppose. This episode revolves around Nina, so I think I'm gonna do the actual plot first, and then we'll bring it back to her. So her story, so we're not gonna do her story right now. Let's start with her story. So what happens is they break into the castle grounds, and the princess decides to take a swim. And since Nina can swim, they tell her that she has to be the one to get into the water. And oh, that's not the right blue. We're working with it. She has to be the one to get into the water and kill her, because presumably she has the most experience in that. During this scene, the princess overpowers her. We get a sort of, that was a weird look, and ends up killing her. Before that, we get the sort of, Frankenstein. I'm confusing myself. Let me start again. So first they break into the castle walls and they climb up to look at the footage, to find the best area to break into. They see something weird on the screens. We get a little more insight into how none of them really care if the person they end up killing isn't a bad guy. Like, they don't give a shit. Nina's the only one that kind of is worried, like, what if we're doing the wrong thing? What if this isn't saving the world? And they're like, we don't care if we save the world or not. Like, what? We're just doing this because we have to. And then Eric sees her. He tries to connect with her. She immediately shoots him in his face. It is very anticlimactic in a very kind of funny way. Because it's like we think there's going to be some sort of like thing between them, and she just shoots him, and they're like, do you know him? And she's like, he's a stalker. And they're like, okay. Damn. Go off, girl. And she sort of walks away from the situation. Oh, God. There's too many blues, and I'm too blind for this. So then they kind of leave him behind, and then they go break into the water area. Nina goes to kill him. During this point, Diebeard and Amanda Waller, they talk to Rick Flag, who tells them to go to the professor's house before he passes out again, and they find her dead body, and they realize something is wrong. So they go to call someone to say that they were mistaken. And right after they kill Nina, the bride goes into the water, sees her dead, is freaking the fuck out, gets a phone call. All is good. And the reason the princess was able to kill Nina is because since the weasel knew she was in danger and thinks of her as like the blonde kid he loves so much, he like ends up warning her, and then he like bites Dr. Phosphorus to like get into the water, and then she gets a clue and ends up killing Nina. So this is the plot. And then like they get led into the castle. The weasel is being congratulated for saving their princess. All's well that ends well, right? Not really. We're gonna get back to that later. I do want to touch on Nina first. So Nina was born. Her mom immediately has some sort of postpartum depression, as her baby is very sick, has lungs on the outside, is going to die. The father, though, is a scientist, and he keeps her alive in this sort of like, it's not, we're a little unaware of how hard it is at first for her, but like clearly it's like, it's not the best quality of life. Like, she has this huge clunky machine, she can't stand up very well, she's a baby, she's struggling. And the mom just hasn't connected with her, and she's like, he doesn't even smile at me. And then he's like, she can sense that you don't love her, so she's not gonna smile at you. Babies are very intuitive. And she's like, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe I can't do this anymore. So the wife leaves, and it's callous. You know, but I kind of have this hot take of, when you have a baby, you're not required to be its parent. Your only job is to make sure that the baby is taken care of. And the dad is a good parent. If he's not a little bit like, this baby should live at all costy. But who can blame a father for wanting their child to live as long as they can? Because like when she grows a little older, it's clearly like, yeah, doing anything is a struggle and a half. So he ends up doing a science experiment on her that gives her like these gills. So instead of breathing air, she breathes water, and she gets all these other aquatic abilities. Um, and that's how she's gonna live her life. He sends her when he's like, it's not time for her to socialize. Like, so he puts her in a public school, well, a private school. And she does not do well. They call her Frog. This is another thing where I was like, um, these people are like second class citizens. Like everyone's like making fun of her. So eventually she runs away, tells her dad I'm sorry, and goes into like a reservoir or something. I know that part was a little confusing. Anyways, like people see her acting like an animal because a lot of things, like Nina deliberately dehumanizes herself because of her like childhood trauma, and it's like very evident in the scene when she sees her literally naked, huddled over a rock, eating a fish. Someone takes a video of her. Animal control comes out. It gets out. Her dad sees it. He tries to go help her. He tries to go stop her. He ends up getting shot. This is the one scene that I was like, I don't know how to rationalize this at all. Like, because he was a white guy, and they just shot him for like going close to the animal, and that was just like a thing that was okay. Like he was clearly like a well liked scientist or doctor. I feel like, and a white one at that. I feel like there would be more repercussions, even if Nina doesn't get to see a lot of them. But I digress. Maybe we didn't see them. And then she gets locked up, and at some point we get there. A lot of people are like, what did Nina do wrong? Why was she like any sort of target? Which is also another thing that was a little confusing. Maybe it's just like public nudity, and then since no one cared, um, or like they charged her with disturbing the peace or something like that, and then since no one cared enough because her dad was dead, and her mom presumably is living a different life, Amanda Waller just kind of swooped in and took her because here's the whole thing is like there's kind of built up to be this aquatic person, and she gets in the water and she dies, and a lot of people are like, well, that's a waste of a character, which is fair. There's also the fact of the matter of is a lot of Nina's character, like her role, how life is brought to her, is her just being misunderstood times 10. And I do think it would be kind of on par for her to be like, well, she's aquatic and she can swim really well, so why can't she fight in the water very well? Or she's in prison, so she must be in jail for something inherently violent. And I could also see Amanda like playing her up a little bit, being like, because she says like get her in water, it's a different story, but she also says like, um, she's the only one that will bring the team together. Like she's the heart or the brains. Like she'll help you out. Um, so maybe Amanda Waller could also have been like upselling it in order to make Rick Flag like take her. There's a lot of different reasons. This one's a little harder for me to grasp in my head. And then other like questions. Um, but yeah, it basically boils down to I think a lot of people were just assuming a lot of things based on who she was, and that was ultimately her downfall. But it is kind of wild to have the water character die in the water after saying she's a water character, regardless of how it might fit into the story. It's just a funny thing to do. Uh, okay, that part's blue. Okay. Oops. Um. Anyways, so Nina's dead. Bride's freaking out. Um, Frank is in the hospital. Everyone thinks everything is solved, but something's not sitting right with Bride. So while everyone's getting praised and stuff, she decides to go back and talk to the princess. And the princess is like, "Oh, glad everything was sorted out. I'm sorry about your friend, blah, 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 blah." And Bride's like, "Yeah, see, about that. You're gonna destroy the world. But I don't care about that. I don't care that you're gonna kill us all and you're gonna subjugate the world. I never have. But you killed my friend, so now I'm gonna kill you." So it's like we solidify Nina and the Bride's friendship in the last act. And we also see that she was the mastermind the whole time. She was working with she was working with Clayface. We can see in that like blurry photo, the guy watching over them was one of her men in the beginning. She deliberately seduced um Flag so he would be on her side more. Like in she well, she did kill Nina, but I don't know, it was a little less her being evil. Like she did all these things. She killed the professor so that Clayface could discredit her and get her fired. So it discredit whatever Cersei was saying about her eventually. And she was the mastermind this whole time, and she ends up getting shot in the face. And this is like one of the last acts. Okay. I just have to finish Frankenstein. And I'm not gonna. There's one thing that I think is interesting in the scene. We see the Bride like look at a lot of books on her shelf, and one of the books in particular is this one called um, Matilda by Mary Shelley. So first it establishes that Mary Shelley did exist, which we have to be like, oh, did she still create the science fiction genre? Was it with Frankenstein? Was it with another book? Does Frankenstein exist? Was that more of a exaggerated memoir? Because also then, if Frankenstein exists, then is that science fiction? If it just happened, wouldn't that be more of a biography than the creation of the science fiction genre? Also, this is too dark of a green, but we're pivoting. Um, and I looked up what the book was about because I was curious whether if they just stayed on that scene to establish that Mary Shelley still exists or for some other unexplained reason. And the only I don't know if it's supposed to be deliberate or not. I'm assuming it is. Apparently, Mary Shelley's about this woman, well, girl, I suppose, whose mom died when she was very young, and then her father later on in life confessed his love to her and then killed himself, and then she has to deal with all that, which has a few parallels with the Bride story, with her being taken advantage of by her, what is basically her dad, the guy who created her, the guy who helped her out, and the, her betrothed father, so in a way that's her father, and then he like had sex with her and stuff. So it's a parallel that is interesting to be explored. It's just way too dark and great. Whatever. I have to do this off cam anyway because I'm almost done. So I have to go to another page. She kills him with a gun. She kills her with a gun. She says, "We're leaving." They have to go. End of story until we see the Bride being walked and Diebeard's talking to her, and he tells her that he has another mission for her, and she's getting a team this time, probably because they can't trust Frankie Boy anymore. I mean, Frank is Frank Gorilla. Um, so she ends up getting a new team, and we see like some of the people that might be on her team, and then we get GI Robot still alive. Wow. And the team kind of consists of Khalees, King Shark, GI Robot, Nosferatu, and Dr. Phosphorus. And then the last scene is the end credit scene where Frankenstein's still alive. And he is now talking to a new old Slavic woman who we probably will also kill. Let's be honest, he's not changing anytime soon. For better or for worse. And that is the end of Creature Commandos. The first part of the DCU. God damn, I've never talked for 3 hours straight. And I can hear it in my everything. I'm so sweaty right now. It is way too hot to be doing any of this without the fan on. But it is way too loud to do any of this with the fan on. I still haven't gotten better at outros. So, thanks for whoever watched this far. Next week I will be doing Peacemaker to get ready for the new Peacemaker TV show. I think I'm gonna do I'm probably gonna do colored pencils. Probably Peacemaker and Vigilante. Maybe just Peacemaker. I do have to, do my time a little bit better than that. Because I still don't understand how long it takes me to do things and how long it takes me to say things. But I might figure that out eventually. Or I might just, have to keep doing these things in a different sort of capacity. Anyways, hope you have a good Wednesday. I don't want to do, an outro thing, because last time I did an outro thing was when I had to do morning announcements, and people said that to me for a week straight, and I'm not going to be stuck with anything like that without careful consideration. But, have a good day, and don't do what I did. Don't lock yourself in the one room in the house that gets the most heat consistently, and then refuse to turn on the fan and cover your face in makeup. It can't even be seen on your shitty camera. You'll just hate yourself at the end of it. And if you're anything like me, you're already there, so this is just extra torture. I'll be posting the results on Instagram and on my Twitch. That's all. Ciao.